Hello, everybody. My name is Graham Elwood, and you are watching Boom, the Political Vigilante, making Gotham great again. If you're in the Pacific Northwest this week, Ron Placone and I are doing stand-up. Portland, Oregon, July 28th. Seattle, Washington, July 29th. And Vancouver, Canada, July 30th. Get your tickets at GrahamElwood.com. Those shows are fun. You show up, we hang out with other people that are like-minded. You realize, whoa, I'm not alone. There are people in my town that agree with me. there are people in my town that aren't Democrats or Republicans. So it's really cool. You get to be around and it's fun. We need to laugh. It's tough times right now. So we all need to laugh. So go to GrahamElwood.com to get tickets. I very much appreciate you guys supporting the show. Another great way to support the show is go to patreon.com/GrahamElwood and submit articles like TE did. Again, there's a lot of tough stuff happening, going on in the world. Sri Lanka crisis, daily heartbreak of life in a country gone bankrupt. And I'm going to show you this story for two reasons. One, it's just awful what's happening. And, you know, this is the people's channel. We have fans from all over the world, and I know there's people who have family in Sri Lanka that watch this show, and it's heartbreaking that they're having to go through this. The other reason I want to show you this is this could easily happen in America. When you have a handful of wealthy people that control all the money and you have broken neoliberal policies, you get stuff like this. This is what happens. This is what happens. And you're going to hear a lot of stuff in this story that's going to sound very familiar to what's currently happening in the United States and has been happening even before COVID, but got worsened from COVID. So this is pretty brutal. It's pretty brutal. Power cuts that run late into the sweltering nights steal hours of sleep as the fans cease. Whole families waking up sapped from the months-long trial of shuffling their lives around daily blackouts after the country went bankrupt and essentially ran out of fuel. This is a country that has gone bankrupt. It ran out of fuel. So this country has known for decades how bad climate crisis is, how expensive, how dirty fuel is. This is why a Green New Deal is so imperative, because this is what it's going to look like. And so when your power goes out, when you're in sweltering heat, I don't know, sweltering heat, does that sound like large portions of the United States right now, today? The UK today? We've had power outages and stuff like that. Oh, but we got the money to come in and fix it. Right. For now we do. But we're already in a recession. They're going to announce this recession July 28th. So this is what it's going to look like, folks. So pay close attention. Once you've had breakfast, eating less than you used to, or perhaps nothing at all, the battle to find transport beckons. So most people in Sri Lanka, the working class, they don't have cars. But if there's no fuel, this is the thing. If there's no fuel, and we've gotten a little taste of what supply chain issues look like. Gee, I thought this only happened in socialist countries, but it's happened in America. And it's happening right now in Sri Lanka. And if you think it can't happen here, you're deluding yourself. We've seen it. Now gas is $6 a gallon. Now, our economy is a little different because we can just print money, the Federal Reserve, but that's creating massive inflation. And the oil companies and the wealthy elites, they don't care. They don't care about your inflation problems. They don't care about your $6 a gallon. They don't care. And it's manufactured anyway. So this is happening in Sri Lanka. And this is what it'll look like. So let's say you don't own a car and you live in a city where you take public transportation. But if there's no fuel for the public transportation, what do? Or there's no money to pay the bus drivers or the subway drivers, what do? Do you see how this tenuous system, how capitalism is just a broken system that is so easily exposed? I don't know the particulars. I just got this article from somebody who it's in the BBC.com, BBC's website. And I'm not an expert on Sri Lanka or India or that part of the world. I can't go into the particulars of their economy. And maybe some economists could say, well, Sri Lanka made this and this and this mistake. Okay, fine. But do you think America hasn't been making mistakes? You don't think Joe Biden has made a bunch of mistakes? You don't think Donald Trump has made a bunch of mistakes? Well, here's what it looks like, guys. Look at this. These are all of these little, I think they're called like tic-tac carts or whatever. They're basically like little motorized cabs. It's a driver and two people can sit in the back. So this is a main mode of transportation. This is also a huge part of their economy. So we don't really have stuff like this in America. But imagine these are all taxi cabs and Uber drivers waiting for gas. And you're used to taking, you don't own a car. I've seen some people do this in LA, and it's a smart idea on paper. You're like, oh, get rid of my car. It's actually, I don't have to pay car insurance. I don't have to do this. I take public transportation and I take Uber and Lyft. Well, what if there's no gas for them? This is what it's going to look like. Okay. This is Sri Lanka. This is awful. So these are all guys. These are all working class employees. These are all drivers. I know people that drive for Lyft and Uber right now, and they're like, man, these fuel costs are killing me. So then you hope the people you're driving tip you better. But what if everybody in the car is like, well, now I got to tip more for everything costs more now. I just went out to eat last night. I was like, I went to a Buffalo Wild Wings, right? I'm a vegetarian, and they got these cauliflower Wild Wings. They're great. And there's this spicy garlic sauce. It's so good. And I hadn't been there forever. And I got the small basket. It was like $16, $17. It was teeny. It was like $16.95. And I was just like, I mean, it was nice. My buddy and I went out. We talked shop. We talked comedy. After Comedy Island, we were looking, checking out some of the scores in the games, and we were outside. But I was like, I can't afford this. I don't know. I was like, literally like, wow, I mean, this was nice. I'm going out to eat less. You see how this is just going to snowball into bigger and bigger problems? And what if there's a run on the banks? And people are getting fed up, man. People are getting fed up. They just started a general strike in Panama. I just heard about it right before I did this segment. So I'm just going to research that. But it's not just fuel, because again, they ran out of fuel because the country's bankrupt. Well, what else happens? Lastly, the cost of food, of cooking gas, of clothes, transport, and even what electricity the state will allow you to have has skyrocketed so egregiously as the rupee's value plummeted. We're already dealing with the cost of food has gone up here. Everything's gone up in America. What happens if right now the dollar's strong? What happens when it collapses? I would argue that our situation in America could get way worse than Sri Lanka, because I doubt Sri Lanka has been spending billions and trillions of dollars on endless wars. Oh, we can't even do student debt forgiveness. There's no money for it. It's hard to figure that out. We can't get healthcare, free healthcare in the middle of a pandemic. But we got $60 billion to send over to Ukraine for a proxy war. Every time there's a bipartisan vote on something, it's usually for war or Wall Street bailouts. It's never to help you. So some of this stuff is already happening in America. And guess what? Climate change is exacerbating this as well. That's what this article didn't get into, but it's making it worse as well. And it's making it bad. Record heat in this country again. Triple-digit weather. we've had water mains have been breaking in Texas, right? Honolulu, California, all over because drought is happening. So what happens? The ground gets dry and then the pipes get brittle and our infrastructure in some cities. I watched this woman in the news in Texas and she's like, oh, these pipes are 90 years old. So you don't spend money on infrastructure. You don't spend money on any sort of sustainable, let's think about 2, 3, 4 generations down the road. No, in toxic late stage capitalism, it's squeeze out every nickel now. Maybe we think about the next quarter's profits, but we don't think about long term. And this is what you get. And so I just want you to, I want Americans to see some of this stuff is already happening to us and it's happening in Sri Lanka. And when it really happens to us hard, it will be worse. In working class neighborhoods, families have begun to band together around wood fire stoves to prepare the simplest of meals, rice and coconut sambal. Yeah, and of course, people are trying to work together and help each other out. That's always like a silver lining in stories like these when people are working. You're going to have to work together, guys. Get to know your neighbors. Even if you don't agree with them politically, get to know your neighbors because you're going to have to do this. You're going to have to trade. Look at all the empty shelves. There's still empty shelves. Look at, during the pandemic, we showed you 2-3 hour waits for food banks. What happens when there's no more money? What happens if the dollar collapses and there's a run on the banks? America has backed itself into a corner financially. The 4 decades long corporate coup of this country, we don't have a representative democracy. We have a kleptocracy run by oligarchs. We're in class warfare. God, I hope Americans wake up to this fact. Because if you don't, it's going to be like this. Some parts of the country, it already is. Look at the homeless tent cities in every country in America. And what does that bring? Crime, drug use. And as the inflation gets worse and the economy gets worse, petty crime goes up. The UN is warning of malnutrition and humanitarian crisis. For many here, the crisis has been rolling for months. For months. It's been bad. I mean, we would talk about it all the time before COVID that, 60% of Americans can't afford $1,000 emergency. Number one cause of bankruptcy, medical debt. I mean, that's why I was telling everybody, buy Bitcoin, buy this dip. It's going to probably dip again. And be careful when someone in the media says your money's fine, when somebody on CNBC or MSN or Fox Business or one of those corporate media outlets goes, don't worry, your money's fine. That's when it's not. Move it to a credit union already if you haven't. Get your crypto off of the exchanges and get it onto a cold wallet if you haven't. Because capitalism is collapsing. It's already collapsing. Look at Sri Lanka. Look at, you think it can't happen here? People are going to be waiting for gas. That already happened in America in the 70s. I was a kid. I remember that happened. We're going to have shortages. We're already having them. We've had a chip shortage. I mean, how many times have you heard, oh, we just don't have it? You go to a store and like, oh, we don't have it. I've never heard that in America. Never in my life. Until the last 2 years. Oh, I don't know when we're getting it. Is there anyone new? I don't know. There's a chip shortage. There's a supply chain issue, so it's not. It's gotten a little better for now, but I remember, 6 months, a year ago, surfing in LA and just seeing dozens of cargo ships sitting offshore in LA because they couldn't make it into a port because we couldn't unload it. We got to face some facts that the masses are poor, that the masses belong to what we call the lower class. And when I talk about the masses, I'm talking about the white masses. I'm talking about the black masses, the brown masses, and the yellow masses too. We've got to face the fact that some people say you fight fire best with fire, but we say you put fire out best with water. We say you don't fight racism with racism. We're going to fight racism with solidarity. We say you don't fight capitalism with no black capitalism. You fight capitalism with socialism. That's Fred Hampton. The silver lining through all of this in America is all of these young people unionizing their Starbucks and Amazon and a couple other Apple stores and stuff like that. Because what is happening in Sri Lanka is already starting to happen here, and it will get worse. And what are we going to do? We don't have food. That's why grow your own food and get to know your neighbors. Right? You're growing a bunch of tomatoes. They got chickens. You trade some tomatoes for eggs, man. I'm telling you, it's going to come down to that. So be friendly. Get to know your neighbors. Help each other out, because the government doesn't give a shit about you at all. The government is not going to help you. The government has created this problem because the government is bought and paid for by the ruling elites. The ruling class has created this problem. They created the problem in Sri Lanka. I could guarantee it. I don't even have to know much about that country to know. I'm sure a bunch of ruling elites helped cause this problem. I'm sure there's a handful like rich people and that screwed this up. And now regular guys that are just like cab drivers are sitting there waiting in line for 4 hours to get like a half a gallon of gas to try to make some money to feed their families. We've already seen lines like this in America already during the pandemic. Sri Lanka is the canary in the coal mine, everybody. Thank you to TE for supporting the show, and thank you to all of you supporting my show in various ways. I appreciate it. We've been demonetized, but we keep going because of you, because you're the best, smartest fans in the world. This is the people's channel because you send me stuff like this. You support what I'm doing. I don't take corporate money. I don't have a billionaire cutting me checks. I have this crazy thing called integrity. Follow the money, connect the dots, get the truth, and shave your knuckles for justice. Ba-boom.